I shot this travel film a few months ago during the summer, and I took a lot of gear with me. But in the end, I only end up using two things: my iPhone and an ND filter. Everything was shot using the FiLMiC Pro app, and I shot 4K 60 frames per second. And I did capture at 60 and playback at 60. And then I also shot 1080 HD 120 frames per second, and I conformed it in FiLMiC Pro to do playback at 24. So that gave me automatic slow motion. The 4K 60 I had to slow down in my editor, which is Adobe Premiere Pro. And so I edited everything at 24p. The 120 really is nice and slow, gives it a very dreamy effect. Although the 60p is nice and slow as well. They match together pretty well. These shots right here, I used the ND filter and it got a little bit noisy. Even using an ND filter outside, you gotta be careful with an iPhone because it'll raise the ISO without you realizing it. Of course, one thing nice shooting 4K and editing in HD is I can push in like I have on several of these shots. So you get a wide shot and a close-up using the same clip. This was an overcast day and it kind of lent itself to this vintage vibe that I went with. I wanted to keep this one really simple. I didn't want to do any effects besides the slow motion that was in camera. No whip pans, no zoom transitions. None of that kind of stuff that you usually see all over YouTube. And I like that stuff, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to keep this one really simple. Did some reverse shots there at the end, and then varying the shots by pushing in with the 4K and then coming back to the HD shots. And the last shot here of the entire pier of the amusement park was shot handheld, and I used warp stabilizer to smooth it out in post-production. There are lots of different ways to get a vintage look. On this project, I used our LUT Packs. They were designed specifically to use with FiLMiC Pro, but interestingly, we designed them to use with log or flat footage. When you shoot slow motion like this, you can't currently use log or flat, so we shot in the standard look. And the LUTs work great for that too, you just have to adjust the intensity. I edited this in Adobe Premiere Pro using Lumetri Color, but you could edit this in any software. And if you want to use LUTs, just make sure your software allows importing of the .cube files. This is the original look I created. You can see it on and off there. But to demonstrate this, I'll start fresh. I'm adding a new instance of Lumetri Color. We go into Creative, the Creative tab, and choose the LUT. I'm using polarized, which is one of the vintage LUTs we offer. So adding that looks pretty good, but then you can go in and finesse it to your liking. I'm adding more fade. I'm also adding some sharpness, and then the intensity is something that's really nice that you can either add more or less to get the look you want. And then I also went in just to the basic color, and I do an auto just to see where it lands. And then I go in and tweak it from there. I like to lower the contrast for this vintage look and the highlights. And then I adjusted the white balance, the color temperature, to match the other shots. I also added film grain using Film Convert. LUTs don't have film grain built in, and so using something like this, and you could use any plugin to add film grain, just gives it a little more of a realistic look. I'm using Super 16 film grain here. You can adjust the film grain to however much you want. This is a split screen, so you can see how it's applying. It's very subtle, and you might not be able to tell on your screen. And then you can also adjust the softness. It just mimics the way older film stocks looked. And to apply Film Convert, I used an adjustment layer so I could apply the grain to every clip at the same time. I went in and adjusted all the colors individually with Lumetri, but then I applied the grain across everything. So here it is with the effect and without it. So side-by-side comparison here between the original and the graded. Some of the shots look more extreme than the others, but you can definitely see how you've got the faded vintage look. You're more or less raising up the shadows and the mids. It's just kind of a fun way to add style or a different look to your videos. This amusement park just reminded me of something from the 1960s. It's been completely updated, but it just had this cool vibe to it. I hope you liked this behind-the-scenes peek at how to add a vintage look to your smartphone footage. If you did, please hit that thumbs up and that subscribe button, and we will see you guys in the next one.